The last passenger of Black Lake, it was 1:47 a.m. There was only one bus on the deserted highway in America. The rain was so heavy that nothing could be seen clearly outside the windshield. Lightning would flash in the sky, and for a few seconds, the entire forest would light up. There were only 7 passengers on the bus, and one of those 7 was Ryan Carter. Ryan was a true crime podcaster. His channel, Midnight Screams, was quite famous on the internet. He made videos on mysterious disappearances and haunted locations. But that night, he was going to a place that people would turn off their phones as soon as they heard its name: Black Lake Village. A village that had disappeared from the map 14 years ago. People said that everyone who lived there had died in one night. And after that, every year on a rainy night, a bus would go there. But it never came back. Ryan looked out the window. There was only forest all around. There was a strange silence inside the bus. No one was talking to anyone, just the sound of the bus engine and the occasional light breathing of a passenger. Ryan turned on his camera. Okay guys, if this video is reaching you, then maybe I'm still alive. He laughed lightly. I'm going to the village from which no one has returned to this day. People say there's something in the lake, something that's not human. He panned the camera around the bus. In front sat an old man who kept staring at the floor. A woman was holding a sleeping baby in her lap. And in the last seat, a tall man in a black coat was sitting silently. His face couldn't be seen, because he had his hat down. Suddenly, the driver braked. The bus stopped. Ryan looked out. A deer was standing in the middle of the road. But it wasn't moving. The bus was standing in the rain, and its eyes were completely white. The driver muttered, "No, not again." Suddenly, the deer turned its head, and the next moment, it disappeared into the forest. The driver immediately stopped the bus again. He drove away. Ryan approached him. What happened? The driver's face was filled with fear. If the white-eyed animal is seen on the road, then it must have woken up. Who? The driver fell silent. At that moment, all the lights on the bus went off. The entire interior was plunged into darkness. Anxiety spread among the passengers. Then, a woman's voice came from the bus's speaker. Very slowly, very scary. Don't look under the water. A thrill ran through Ryan's body. The speaker turned off. A few seconds later, the lights came back on. But now, there was an extra passenger sitting on the bus. Ryan's heart stopped. In the back seat, where there was no one before, now there was a woman sitting. Long black hair, white soaked clothes, and water was dripping from her hands. Ryan looked around in surprise. No one else noticed him. He slowly walked towards the woman. "Excuse me, when did you get on the bus?" The woman didn't answer, just slowly raised her face. The camera almost fell from Ryan's hand. The woman had no eyes, only black empty holes, and water was flowing from those holes. Suddenly, the woman tilted her head and whispered, "The lake has called you." The next moment, the bus shook violently, and the woman disappeared. Ryan started gasping. What was that? But the real fear had just begun. About half an hour later, the bus stopped in front of a deserted village. Black Lake Village. A broken board was shaking in the wind. The whole village was plunged into darkness. Several houses, the doors of the car, were open, as if people had suddenly abandoned everything and fled. The driver said in a low voice, "Come back before dawn, if the road is clear." Ryan asked, "What if you don't come?" The driver looked into his eyes. "Then you'll join them too." Ryan entered the village with his camera. The rain was still falling. There were strange footprints in the mud. It was as if something had crawled out of the water. Suddenly, a sound came from inside a house. Knock, knock, knock. Ryan shone his flashlight inside. The house was completely empty, but there was a single sentence written in blood on the walls. "Don't look in the water." Ryan's hands started shaking. At that moment, he saw a lake in the distance. Black, absolutely silent, as if there was no water but darkness. Then, something moved in the middle of the lake. Ryan zoomed in, and his breath stopped. Underwater, dozens of people stood. They were completely silent, just standing straight underwater. And everyone's eyes were on Ryan. Suddenly, they all opened their mouths at once. And a single voice came out. "Come back." Ryan backed away in fear. Then someone whispered behind him, "You're late." Ryan immediately turned around. The same man in the black coat was standing behind him. But now, his face was visible, and half of his face was completely rotted away. He said with a smile, "The lake takes new souls every 14 years, and tonight it's your turn." Suddenly the water in the lake began to shake violently, as if something huge was moving inside it. Then, a long black hand came out of the water. Then another. Then dozens. Ryan started to run, but his foot slipped in the mud. The camera fell to the ground. All that was visible on the screen was the lake. And then, a huge face slowly emerged from the water. Human-like, but not human. His eyes were completely white, and his mouth was open to an unusual extent. Suddenly, Ryan's terrifying scream echoed in the video. Then the screen went black. The screen was completely black. Only the sound of rapid breathing could be heard. Ha ha ha. Then suddenly the camera turned on again. The image was shaking. It looked like someone was running in the dark. It was Ryan. His face had turned white with fear. Rain was dripping from his clothes while strange screams echoed from the lake behind him. "Come back." "Get in the water." Ryan stammered. These are not human." He turned the camera back, and his hands began to tremble. Dozens of people were now standing on the shore of the lake. The same people who had been in the water. Everyone's clothes were soaked. Everyone's eyes were white. And everyone was silently looking at Ryan. Then, one by one, their bodies began to twist. Crap. Their necks began to twist in an inhuman way. The sounds of bones breaking echoed in the silence of the night. Ryan ran screaming towards the forest. A few minutes later, he was standing in front of an old church. The church was half-burned. A wooden cross hung upside down on the door. Ryan pushed the door open. It was completely dark inside. Only the dim light of candles was burning. And in the middle of the church, an old priest sat. It seemed as if he was waiting for Ryan. He raised his head. "You've seen the lake, haven't you?" Ryan gasped. What is that thing?" Fear flashed in the priest's eyes. "That's not it. That's hunger." A loud noise suddenly came from outside the church. Bang! As if someone had slammed the door. The priest immediately stood up. "They're looking for you," Ryan shouted. "Who are those people?" The priest said in a trembling voice. "A ritual was performed in this village 14 years ago." He pointed to an old picture on the wall. In the picture, the entire village was standing by the lake. And between them, a very tall black creature stood. Its eyes were white, exactly the same as the one Ryan had seen in the water. The priest said, "The villagers thought that creature would give them eternal life, but it took their souls." Suddenly, someone's face appeared outside the church window. The same blind woman. She was standing outside the glass, smiling. Then, faces began to appear in every window of the church. Dozens of people with white eyes. Everyone started banging on the glass at once. Knock, 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 knock. Ryan stepped back. "They'll come in." The priest quickly opened a wooden box. Inside it was an old VHS tape. "If you want to live, watch this." A few minutes later, Ryan played the tape on the church's old TV. The year 1992 appeared on the screen. The same village was visible in the video. People gathered around the lake. Everyone was wearing black clothes. And then, the camera went towards the lake. The water slowly began to move. Then a woman came out of it. Long black hair, white eyes, and her body seemed to be made entirely of water. The villagers bowed down before her. Suddenly, a girl in the video screamed, "She's lying!" Everyone turned around to look. A girl of about 10 years old was standing there. She had a cross in her hand. The girl screamed, "She'll kill us all." The next moment, the woman who emerged from the lake opened her mouth, and her jaw widened to an inhuman size. Then, the entire screen was filled with blood. The video ended. Ryan's hands were shaking. "Who was that girl?" The priest fell silent. Then he said softly, "My daughter." At that moment, the church door burst open with a bang. Bang! Dozens of people with white eyes entered. Water was flowing from their bodies, and the only sound coming out of their mouths was one. "The lake is calling you." The priest grabbed Ryan. "Run through the back." Ryan started running, but as he went, he looked back one last time. The people were closing in on the priest. His screams echoed throughout the church. Ryan kept running into the forest. The rain had gotten heavier. Suddenly, he saw a small house among the trees. He went inside. He closed the door and sat down on the floor, panting. The house was empty, but there were pictures of children on the walls. All the pictures had one thing in common: a black lake and a woman with white eyes standing in it. Ryan held out his flashlight. Then his gaze stopped at a picture. That picture was new, very new, and in that picture, Ryan himself was standing. He was standing in the lake. His eyes were white. Suddenly, someone whispered behind him, "You are ours now." Ryan slowly turned around, and he screamed. The same little girl was standing behind him, who had appeared in the VHS tape. But now, half of her face was missing, and black water was flowing from the whites of her eyes. The girl said with a smile, "You saw in the water. Now she will never leave you." Suddenly, water began to boil loudly from under the house. The floor began to break, and below, thousands of hands were moving towards Ryan. The floor was breaking apart rapidly. Black water was boiling from below, and thousands of hands coming out of that water were trying to grab Ryan's legs. "Come with us. Come down. The lake has accepted you." Ryan screamed and backed away. But suddenly his foot got stuck in the broken plank. An ice-cold hand grabbed his ankle. Ryan kicked with all his might. There was a sound of the bones of the hand breaking. Crap. And that hand disappeared into the water again. Ryan immediately got up and ran towards the door. But as soon as he opened the door, his breathing stopped. The entire village was now submerged in the lake water. Black water was flowing between the houses. And in that water, people were standing. Hundreds of people. Silent. Still. Everyone's white eyes were fixed on Ryan. Suddenly, they all craned their necks together. Thunder, thunder, thunder. And then, everyone started walking together. Ryan's heart started beating fast. He immediately ran towards the forest. The rain had now turned into a storm. The trees were shaking violently. Lightning flashed. And for a second, Ryan saw the shadow of something long in front of him. Very long. Inhuman. Like a creature standing among the trees. The lightning disappeared, and the shadow disappeared too. After a while, Ryan arrived in front of an old school. There was dirt on the board. Black Lake Elementary School. The school was completely deserted. The windows were broken, but there was a faint light coming from inside. Ryan slowly entered. There were pictures of children in the corridor, but in each picture, the children's eyes were painted black. Suddenly, from somewhere in the distance, the sound of children laughing came. Hee. Ryan's step stopped. "Who's there?" There was no answer. Only the sound of someone's bare feet walking on the wet ground. "Hide, hide, hide." Ryan pointed the flashlight towards the sound. At the end of the corridor, a little boy stood. School uniform, wet clothes, and white eyes. He said softly, "The teacher is still downstairs." The next moment, he disappeared inside the wall. Ryan's hair stood on end. He slowly walked towards the basement. It was completely dark under the stairs, and there was a bad smell coming from there. The smell of something rotten. Ryan turned on his mobile flashlight. There was an old desk in the basement. There were children's handprints on the walls. And in the middle of the room, a woman was sitting on a chair. Her back was to Ryan. Long white hair was reaching to the ground. Ryan said in a trembling voice, "Hello." The woman slowly stood up. Then, without turning around, he said, "You shouldn't have come here." Her voice was strange, as if several people were talking at once. Ryan started to back away. Only then did the woman turn her head. Only the head. No body. Arr! Ryan screamed. The woman's face was completely rotten, and black water was flowing from her eyes. "She's awake." Suddenly, the basement lights started to go on and off, and Every time it got dark, the woman would come closer to Ryan. The first time, she was 10 steps away. The second time, 5 steps. The third time, she was standing right in front of him. Ryan froze in fear. The woman slowly opened her mouth, and inside, there were several rows of human teeth. The lake is hungry. Suddenly, the whole basement started shaking. Water started flowing from the walls. And then, a huge hand came out from the middle of the floor. Black, swollen, and many times bigger than a human hand. That hand slowly came up. Then another. Then a head. Ryan's breath stopped. The same creature that he had seen in the lake. But now it was clearer. Its body seemed to be made of water and shadow. Its white eyes were shining in the darkness. And there were human faces on its body. They were all screaming. Ryan backed away. But at that moment, his eyes fell on a picture on the wall. And his blood froze. That picture was from today. In it, Ryan was lying dead on the floor. And the same creature was standing above him. Under the picture was written, "Next offering." Suddenly, the creature extended its long hand towards Ryan. The entire basement began to fill with water. Ryan started to run, but hands emerged from the water and were grabbing his legs. "Don't leave us alone. It's so cold down there." Ryan ran towards the stairs screaming. As soon as he reached the top, the school bells started ringing loudly. T-R-R-R-R-R-R. The door to every classroom in the corridor opened automatically, and inside, hundreds of children were sitting. Everyone's faces were soaked in water. Everyone's eyes were white, and they all turned to Ryan at once. Then they spoke together. The teacher said, "Don't look into the water." Suddenly, all the children got up from their seats and started running towards Ryan at full speed. The corridor was filled with children's screams. Hundreds of drenched children were running towards Ryan at full speed. Water was dripping from their shoes, and their mouths were open to an inhuman extent. "Don't leave us alone. It's so dark down there." Ryan ran screaming in fear. The school lights were going out again and again. Each time it got dark, the children came closer to him. Suddenly, a child grabbed his jacket. His hand was as cold as ice. Ryan pushed him with all his strength. But as soon as the child fell to the ground, his body turned into water and was absorbed into the floor. Ryan started gasping. "What is this?" At that moment, a door at the end of the corridor started to shake violently.
Damn, damn, damn.
A rusty board was posted above the door. "Staff only." Ryan immediately ran towards it. As soon as he entered, the door closed automatically. The children's screams outside suddenly fell silent. The entire room was plunged into darkness. Only an old light bulb was giving off a faint light. In the middle of the room was a table, and on that table, old files, photos, newspaper. Ryan picked up a newspaper. His hands started to shake as he saw the headline. Black Lake School Mass Disappearance. 43 children missing.
Date:
October 17th, 1992. Ryan quickly looked through the remaining pages. The newspaper wrote, "Children claimed to hear a woman singing at night from under the school." Several children said that water was coming out of the basement walls. The day before the disappearance, all the children drew the same picture on their copies. Ryan picked up the drawing she had with her, and her heart sank. A black lake had formed in the picture, and inside that lake, a huge face, white eyes, a gaping mouth, the exact same creature. Suddenly, a whisper was heard from behind. They had opened the door. Ryan turned around immediately. The same little girl was standing behind him, the girl with the VHS tape. But now her body was half transparent, as if she didn't really exist. Ryan asked, gasping, "Who are you?" The girl spoke softly. "My name is Emily. I was the last girl alive." Ryan looked at her silently. Black water was flowing from Emily's white eyes. The teacher made a pact with the lake. Every 14 years, she needs new souls. A thrill ran through Ryan's body. Why? Emily pointed slowly towards the basement. Because she's waking up. Suddenly, the whole room shook violently. Bang! A long crack appeared in the wall, and black water started flowing from that crack. Emily was scared. She's coming here. At that moment, a strange sound started coming from under the floor, as if something huge was crawling. GHRRRR. Ryan lowered the flashlight, and his blood froze. Under the floor, thousands of eyes were moving. White eyes. Everyone was looking at him. Suddenly, the floor broke. Ryan and Emily fell straight down. A few seconds later, Ryan opened his eyes. He was in a long underground tunnel. The walls were wet. Water was dripping. And at the end of the tunnel, a faint red light could be seen. Emily spoke in a low voice. "This is the real place." Ryan woke up panting. "Where does this tunnel go?" Emily replied, "Under the lake." Suddenly, there was the sound of someone walking in the darkness of the tunnel. "Hide, hide, hide." Ryan held out the flashlight. Someone was standing in the water. A long black shadow. Slowly, he came closer. And then, Ryan screamed. It was Ryan himself, but his body was rotten. His eyes were white, and water was flowing from his mouth. That dead Ryan smiled. "You're too late." The real Ryan stepped back. "This is impossible." The dead Ryan slowly started moving towards him. We all become his in the end. Suddenly, dozens of hands came out from the walls of the tunnel, and they grabbed the dead Ryan. He started screaming loudly, but a few seconds later, his body turned into water, and he was swept away into the tunnel. Ryan's hands were trembling. Emily grabbed his hand. "Hurry up, she's getting closer." The two of them started moving forward in the tunnel. As they moved forward, the air was getting colder. Then suddenly, the tunnel ended, and in front of them was a huge underground hall. Ryan's breath stopped. The entire hall was filled with water, and in that water, thousands of bodies were standing,
Silent. Still.
Everyone's eyes were white. In the middle of the hall, a giant black creature stood. Its head was touching the ceiling, and human faces were screaming inside its body. Suddenly, the creature slowly turned its head towards Ryan, and for the first time, it spoke. Its voice shook the entire tunnel. Finally, the last passenger has arrived. The underground hall was completely silent. Only the sound of dripping water echoed. And in the midst of that silence, the giant creature was staring at Ryan. Its white eyes seemed to burn in the darkness. The human faces trapped inside its body were constantly screaming, "Get us out! She's lying! Run!" Ryan's footsteps seemed to freeze in the ground. Suddenly, the creature began to speak again. 14 years. I waited." Its voice was so heavy that the walls of the hall began to shake. Emily backed away in fear. "Don't listen to it." But the creature's eyes were only on Ryan. "You're back." Ryan gasped. I've never been here before." Suddenly, waves began to rise in the water of Hall. And then, images began to form under the water. Ryan saw a little boy was standing on the shore of the lake, about 7 years old. And there was a woman with him. Ryan's breath stopped. That boy was Ryan himself. What is this? Emily looked at the water with frightened eyes. "No, don't let him remember." The scene under the water changed. Little Ryan was standing near the lake at night, and in front of him was the same white-eyed woman. She slowly approached the child. Then she placed her hand on the child's forehead and whispered, "When the time comes, you will come back." Suddenly, the scene ended. Ryan's hands began to tremble. His mind ached. Broken flashbacks began to appear before him. Rain, screams, black water, and a woman's terrifying laughter. Ryan fell to his knees. What is all this?" Emily screamed. "You were brought here that night. You were the only child who survived." Ryan looked at her in surprise. "What?" Black water began to flow from Emily's eyes. "You were supposed to be a sacrifice, but the lake abandoned you." The creature standing in the middle of the hall slowly began to laugh. That laughter was not human-like, as if hundreds of people were laughing at once. "Because he is mine." Suddenly, all the bodies standing in the water turned their heads towards Ryan at once. Rumble. Then, everyone took a step together. Ryan stepped back. The bodies slowly started moving towards him. The sound of their footsteps echoed in the water. Hide, hide, hide. Emily grabbed Ryan's hand. We have to go now. They both ran towards the edge of the hall. But suddenly, someone in the water grabbed Ryan's leg. Ryan screamed. He looked down, and his heart stopped. There was a living man under the water. He was completely submerged, but still alive. His eyes were wide with fear, and bubbles were coming out of his mouth. The man held Ryan's hand tightly. Then he came up with all his strength. Ryan screamed as soon as he recognized her. She was the bus driver, but half of his face had melted. The driver gasped, "She won't let you out." Ryan pulled him up. "Are you alive?" The driver's eyes were crazy. "No, none of us are alive." Suddenly, water started to come out of his body. His skin started to melt. Ryan backed away in fear. The driver started screaming, "She's coming." The next moment, the water in the hall started to shake like a storm, and the giant creature extended its huge hand towards them. The entire hall started to shake. Emily screamed, "Run!" Ryan and Emily ran towards the tunnel. Water was coming from behind, breaking the wall, and inside that water, thousands of faces were floating. Everyone was screaming. While running inside the tunnel, Ryan suddenly saw the wall. There was a sentence written in blood. "The last passenger opens the gate." Ryan stopped. "Gate?" Emily immediately appeared in front of him. "Don't read." But it was too late. Suddenly, another flashback came to Ryan's mind. He saw himself as a child. He was standing inside the tunnel, and in front of him was a huge door.
Black.
Ancient. It had strange symbols on it. Little Ryan slowly moved towards that door. Then, he touched the door. The next moment, 1,000 screams were heard from behind the door, and something started to move inside. The flashback ended. Ryan's breathing quickened. I opened the door. Emily fell silent. Then she spoke softly, "And if it opens again, then not just this village, the whole world will sink." Suddenly, there was a loud explosion from behind the tunnel. The giant creature had entered the tunnel. Its head was hitting the ceiling. Its white eyes were looking straight at Ryan. And then, it opened its mouth. It was completely dark inside. But in that darkness, Ryan saw thousands of hands moving. "Come back, the last passenger." The tunnel was shaking. Dirt and stones were falling from the ceiling. And behind, the giant creature was crawling towards them throughout the tunnel. Black water was flowing from its body. And the human faces trapped inside it were screaming, "Open the door. Free us." Ryan and Emily were running at full speed. But the tunnel was not ending. Suddenly, a rusty door appeared in the darkness ahead. Emily immediately ran towards it. Quickly, the two entered and closed the door. The next moment, a loud explosion occurred from outside. Bang! The entire wall shook, but the door did not break. After a few seconds, silence fell. Only the creature's heavy breathing could be heard outside. GHRRRRR. Ryan sat down on the floor panting. What the hell is this? Emily slowly raised her head. It used to be human. Ryan fell silent. Emily's voice was trembling. Many years ago, Black Lake was just an ordinary lake. Then a woman came here. She didn't want to die. She summoned something that wasn't of this world. A thrill ran through Ryan's body. And then, black water began to flow from Emily's eyes. Then the lake came to life. Suddenly the lights in the room turned on. Ryan looked around. This place looked like a secret laboratory. There were strange symbols on the walls. Old files were lying on the tables. And in the middle of the room, there was a huge iron door. The same door. Ryan immediately backed away. He immediately remembered the flashback. Childhood, rain, and this door. There was something written on the door in a strange language. But Ryan could read it, even though he had never seen that language before. The gate of the drowned. Suddenly, his head started to hurt badly. Flashbacks started coming back quickly. 14 years ago, little Ryan came to the village with his mother. His mother was a journalist. She was researching the secret of the lake. But that night, the villagers caught them. Ryan saw people were dragging his mother towards the lake. She was screaming, "Let go of my child." Then, the woman with the white eyes came out of the water, and she looked at little Ryan. "This can open the door." The villagers immediately bowed. Then Ryan was brought in front of that gate. A strange symbol was made on his hand, and he was forced to touch the door. As soon as he touched the door, horrible screams came from inside. The door slowly opened, and inside it, there was only darkness. But in that darkness, thousands of white eyes were moving. Ryan's mother screamed, "Close the door." The next moment, black water spread throughout the tunnel. People started screaming, and then everything was plunged into darkness. Ryan suddenly came back to reality. His breathing was rapid. My mother, Emily, was watching him silently. She died that night. Suddenly, a cough came from the corner of the room. Ryan was startled. There was a man sitting there in the darkness. Long beard, torn clothes, and a shotgun in his hand. His eyes were scared. "How did you guys get here?" Ryan asked in surprise. "Who are you?" The man slowly stood up. "My name is Marcus. I'm the last living human." Emily immediately said,
No.
"Don't trust him." But it was too late. Suddenly Marcus pointed the shotgun at Ryan. There was madness in his eyes. "She's looking for you. If you die, the door will never open." Ryan stepped back. "What do you mean?" Marcus shouted, "You're not the last passenger. You're the key." At that moment, a loud explosion came from behind the iron door. Boom! The entire laboratory shook. Black water started flowing from under the door. And in that water, white hands started coming out. Marcus was scared. "No, he found us." Suddenly, a huge eye appeared from behind the door,
White.
filled with blood. She was looking straight at Ryan. Then, a woman's voice rang out. "Ryan, open the door." Emily shouted, "Close your ears." But Ryan seemed to be in a trance. He slowly started moving towards the gate. The old symbol on his hand started glowing again. Marcus immediately grabbed him. "If this gate opens, then everything will be over." Suddenly, the screams of children echoed throughout the tunnel, and the gate slowly opened on its own. It was completely dark inside the door, but in that darkness, something huge was moving.
Then,
Two long black hands slowly reached out. The walls of the laboratory were shaking. The giant iron gate was slowly opening, and two black hands coming out of it were crawling on the ground.
those hands were not human-like.
Too long,
Too thin.
and their skin looked like a corpse rotting in water. Ryan's body went numb. The symbol on his hand was glowing with red light, and the more the gate was opening, the more that symbol started to burn. Emily screamed, "Step back." But Ryan seemed to be under someone else's control. He was slowly moving towards the gate. It was completely dark inside the gate, but in that darkness, thousands of white eyes were moving, and between them, something very large was breathing. G-char-r-r. Her hands were shaking. "We have to close the gate now." Suddenly, a woman's voice came from inside the gate.
Soft. Sad.
Ryan. Ryan stopped. That voice belonged to his mother. Her eyes widened. "Mom?" Emily immediately screamed, "This is not your mother." But it was too late. A woman's shadow appeared in the darkness of the gate. She slowly came out. Ryan's breath stopped. She was really his mother. The same face, the same voice, but her eyes were completely white, and black water was flowing from her mouth. She smiled softly. "You're back." Ryan's hands began to tremble. This is impossible." His mother raised her hand. "Come to me." Suddenly, Marcus fired. Bang! The bullet passed through the woman's chest, but she didn't react. She just slowly turned her head towards Marcus. Then, her jaw opened inhumanly, and inside her mouth, hundreds of human hands were moving. Marcus backed away in fear. "No!" The next moment, the woman pounced on him with lightning speed. The scream echoed throughout the tunnel. Blood spattered the walls. And a few seconds later, Marcus was gone. Only his shotgun was lying on the ground. Ryan froze in fear. Emily grabbed his hand. "We have to go." But then, A small tape recorder started playing from Marcus' jacket lying on the ground. Click, click. Then a woman's voice was heard. Ryan stopped immediately. It was his mother's real voice. Recording, October 17th, 1992. If anyone is listening to this recording, then I'm probably not alive. My name is Sarah Carter. Black Lake is no ordinary place. This gate opens to another world. Ryan's hands began to tremble. The recording continued. I've seen what's behind the gate. They're not human. They live off our fear. And every 14 years, they need a new soul to keep the gate closed. Ryan's breath hitched. Emily fell silent. Suddenly, screams began to sound in the recording. Then Sarah's trembling voice was heard. If my son survived, then telling him the truth. The gate can only be closed by the blood of the one who opened it. The recording stopped suddenly. Silence fell in the tunnel. Ryan slowly backed away. No. Tears welled up in Emily's eyes. I'm sorry. Ryan shook his head angrily.
No.
There must be another way. Suddenly, the entire gate began to shake violently. Boom! The door opened wider. And from inside it, a huge face began to emerge. White eyes,
Torn skin.
and thousands of souls were screaming inside its body. This was the real creature, the real thing, that was behind the lake. He slowly pulled his head out, and for the first time, the entire hall shook with his voice. Last passenger. Open the door fully. Suddenly, the symbol on Ryan's hand started to burn. So intense that he screamed. Drops of his blood fell to the ground, and the gate opened further. Emily backed away in fear. It's using you. Suddenly, water started to burst from the walls and come in. And inside that water, hundreds of white-eyed people started crawling towards them. The tunnel started to sink completely. Ryan started to gasp. His mother's recording was in his hand, and only one thing was echoing in his mind. The gate can only be closed by his blood. Suddenly, he looked inside the gate, and his soul trembled, because inside, thousands of people were imprisoned alive. They were screaming in the darkness, calling for help, and in the midst of them all, Ryan saw himself. Another Ryan, the one with white eyes, the one who was slowly smiling. Then he whispered, "You will never leave here." The tunnel was now completely destroyed. Black water was pouring in from the walls like a storm. And the gate, it was almost completely open now. The darkness behind it seemed alive. Thousands of white eyes were moving in that darkness. Screams, crying sounds, and the breathing of something very large. Homer. Ryan's hands were shaking. His mother's recording was still in his hands. The gate can only be closed with her blood. Emily looked at him. There was fear in his eyes and sadness. If you don't close the gate, then this thing will spread throughout the world. Ryan remained silent. He had two paths ahead of him. Either he should run away or end it all forever. But before that, the creature inside the gate began to come out in full. First its hands came out, then its long, rotting body, and finally, its face. Even Ryan's soul trembled. The creature did not look like a human. Its face had thousands of eyes, and inside each eye, a separate human was screaming, as if they were all imprisoned inside it. It opened its mouth, and inside it was complete darkness. But in that darkness, thousands of hands were moving. Free us. Let us out. The creature looked at Ryan. Then it spoke softly. You woke us up. Now you will set us free completely. Suddenly, the entire tunnel began to shake, and all the white-eyed bodies standing in the water bowed to their knees together, as if prostrating themselves before a god. Emily backed away in fear. This is the gatekeeper. The real creature is still behind the gate. Ryan's breath caught. What? Emily said in a trembling voice. It's just the gatekeeper. The real thing is that which is breathing inside the darkness. Suddenly, a huge eye opened from inside the gate, so big that it filled the entire gate, that I was looking straight at Ryan. And then, the entire tunnel shook with its voice. Ryan Carter, I've been waiting for you forever. Blood started pouring from Ryan's ears. He felt like his brain was going to explode. Thousands of voices started echoing in his mind. Open the gate. Free us. We'll keep you alive forever. Suddenly, Ryan remembered his mother, her screams, her sacrifice. And then, he made a decision. Ryan slowly walked towards the gate. Emily screamed, "What are you doing?" There were tears in Ryan's eyes. It all started because of me. And today it will end with me. He picked up Marcus's shotgun from the ground. Then he shot at his palm. Bang! Blood began to fall to the ground. And the symbol on his hand lit up. The gate began to tremble violently. The creature screamed angrily. No! Ryan applied his blood to the gate. The next moment, a terrifying scream echoed throughout the tunnel. The darkness inside the gate began to shake like crazy. Thousands of hands began to reach out, and that giant gatekeeper rushed towards Ryan. But Emily appeared in front of him. She screamed for the first time, and a bright light began to come out of her white eyes. Suddenly, the souls of all the children in the hall appeared. The same children who had disappeared from school. Everyone grabbed the gatekeeper. The creature began to scream like crazy. "You can't stop me." Ryan began to close the gate with all his strength. But the gate was too heavy, and something was opening it with all its might from the other side. Then, from inside the gate came his mother's voice. This time, a real voice.
Soft. Calm.
"Ryan, stop it now." Tears started flowing from Ryan's eyes. He looked at Emily one last time. Emily smiled slightly. "Thank you." The next moment, Ryan closed the gate with all his might. Boom! The entire tunnel shook with the explosion. White light spread everywhere. Screams. Water. Darkness. Everything started to end at once. And then, silence. 3 months later, a rescue team found an old camera in the forest of Black Lake. The camera was broken, but it had the last video saved in it. Ryan was standing in the video. Behind him was the same gate, but now it was closed. Ryan said in a weak voice, "If you're watching this, then maybe I succeeded." He smiled faintly. Black Lake is over now. Then suddenly, there was movement in the darkness behind the video. For a moment, 2 white eyes appeared, and then a whisper was heard. Gates never stay closed forever. The video suddenly stopped.